Thank you for staying tuned to Citizen TV and welcome back. Of course, you're still watching Daybreak on this 20th day of June 2022. We're just counting 49 days to the general election. So much is going on, so much is happening, but also several questions about the preparedness of the IBC and what's happening on the campaign trail. We'll be talking about that later on. But first, to introduce Senator Sylvia Kasanga, nominated senator from Wiper Democratic Movement. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Sam. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. Great. And Senator Isaac Maigwa Mwaura. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. It's been long.
Yeah, when he's wondering Maigwa, who is Maigwa?
Maigwa is me. Actually, that's my real name.
Yeah.
Isaac Maigwa Mwaura.
Great. It's good to see you. It's been a long time. What have you been doing? But Ruiro didn't happen.
Well, but the name doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my political name. Actually, people know me more as Modongo Arroyo than Isaac Mwaura. Yeah. So, well, we've been on the campaign trail. We've just come from doing the Kiambu circuit. We were from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we had a big mega rally in Dumberi on Saturday. Yeah. So that's what I'm in the presidential campaign team.
Okay.
Secretariat, so I was the one coordinating that together under the leadership of my friends Kemani Shungwa and, of course, our governor, Matanki. Yes.
Okay, all right. We'll be talking so much about all this. But first, let's take a look at what's happening in the papers. You see the story of making of a titanic battle on the Daily Nation. They're talking about Johnson Sakaja versus Polycarp Igade. And IBC yesterday gave embattled Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja a lifeline after he dismissed all petitions against his candidacy for the Nairobi governor seat, setting the stage for a bruising battle for control of the country's richest county and seat of power, but also making a mockery of ongoing investigations into the validity of his Ugandan degree certificate. Then again, you see the other faces. You have Taita Taveta Governor Granton Samboja, who has had several matters concerning his academic qualifications. Machako Zoipa candidate of Vinyandeti was also let off the hook. Former Kitui Governor Julius Malombe is also in the race, but Kiambu Senator aspirant Karungo Thang'wa is out given what just happened, that he cannot contest because the decision to impeach him or to remove him from the office of County Executive Member, member of County Executive Committee in charge of youth, still stands according to the Dispute Resolution Committee. Of course, he had been barred from running by the returning officer in Kiambu, and that has been confirmed by the Dispute Resolution Committee. And I want us to begin there by talking about the road to elections, and specifically that question about those decisions that have been made by the Dispute Resolution Committee. Let me begin with you, Senator Mwaura, because now it looks like do you think, in your view, Karungo Thang'wa has a fighting chance?
There have been an argument, which is very interesting, about whether when you're removed from office, you can still run. The impeachment procedure bill is still at the National Assembly. It didn't come back to the Senate. It started with the Senate. But if you look at Article 75(3) of the Constitution, it's very clear that when you're removed from office, then you're barred from running for office. And there are two arguments there. The first one is that then, if you've not exhausted your appeal mechanisms, so then you should be given a chance to run. But then the counter-argument there is that as long as the impeachment has not been lifted by the court, you still stand impeached or removed from office. You get the argument. So one is saying, please proceed to look for your, to get a respite in the courts of law all the way to the Supreme Court. Because then you've not done that, then you then be given an opportunity to run. But then another one say, but then if that has not been lifted, then you still stand removed. So I think this is a very good jurisprudence, going forward.
Well, I wonder why you'd say that this is your party candidate. But before we went on air, we were having a conversation with Senator Kasanga here, and you're referring to Article 75(3), but also 99(3) that talks about the qualification or disqualification of running as a member of parliament. I'm just trying to quickly get to it so that I can quote it for you. Because, yes, 75(3) talks about once you're removed from office, in accordance with the Constitution, you cannot occupy another state office. But 99(3) says a person excuse me, is not disqualified under Clause 2 unless or possibility of appeal or review of the relevant sentence or decision excuse me again, has been exhausted. But Article 99 is about qualification and disqualification for election as member of parliament. So can you extend this, for instance, to the question of governor aspirant Mike Sonko?
I think let me clarify what I said in terms of good jurisprudence. It is not necessarily because of our party candidate. It's just in question of purely as a matter of law. You get the point, huh? And you saw IBC trying to argue that if then you are convicted and you're still even 6 months and beyond, and you're still looking for appeal mechanisms, then you can be given a chance to run. Now, convictions and all of those kind of criminal or civil proceedings are fairly different from removal from office. Sam Gituko. We are simply saying, for example, if you are removed from your position here as an anchor, okay, but versus if you are accused of doing something that has yet to be properly proven. I don't know what you're trying to get what I'm trying to say. Those are two different procedures, in my opinion. Huh? And so, therefore, it is going to be established very clearly in law. And I think there's a 3-judge bench that is going to substantively, make a ruling on this issue. Okay. But I think that is a novelty. It has not happened before. So that then we want to see. I think Karungo Thang'wa has an opportunity to go to court and argue his case out. But as it stands, him, Mike Sonko, I think he says is going to be determined today, and any other person, they have been, and Waitito also, they have been removed from office. You get the point? So then one of the questions that one would ask is, if you're removed from office, can you then go ahead on grounds of, whatever those grounds are, that are against integrity, around integrity, sorry, are you going to occupy another office by dint of election? Let that be properly determined. Of course, as at now, as we speak, the IBC tribunal has ruled on that matter, and that is a decision that stands for Karungo also. He had gone to the Employment and Labor Relations High Court division when he was removed from office, and the decision of the County Assembly was also upheld. So you see, I think it's a due process of the law. Okay. That is quite important. All right. Yeah.
And Senator Kasanga, of course, your party is also interested in a similar conversation regarding the governor candidate or aspirant, Mike Sonko. What's your take now that a decision about Karungo Thang'wa has been made? What are you expecting about Mike Sonko?
Well, first, Sam, let me just comment about the whole process, that we are happy so far with how the tribunal has ruled. Don't forget that we had our candidate, Wavinya Ndeti, as well, who was being considered, the former governor of Kitui, Malombe, as well. So it's a big win for Wiper that we have our 2 candidates of Lower Eastern who have been cleared. Right. And the competition now is on. And we are looking for big wins this time around as Wiper Party. For Sonko, well, now that the tribunal has ruled the way it has ruled, maybe you would think that maybe there's a bit of precedence there. But again, just to mention what my good friend, Senator Mwaura, has said, we feel that there's still room for Sonko. I know you've mentioned, and we were debating with you just a little earlier, but the fact that he has challenged his impeachment in court means there's still a little bit of lifeline in terms of jurisprudence that is yet to come out, that will be clear as to whether he will be allowed to vie or not, or whether somebody who has been impeached can then hold the public office after he has, gone through the appeal process. So we're still waiting for that kind of jurisprudence. We know that the Chief Justice has pronounced herself. I mean, she has mentioned it and said that the impeachment does not stand, it's not been stayed or anything like that, that it's still withheld. But there's a fighting chance. What we are saying is that there's a fighting chance. And the fact remains, the people of, the great people of Mombasa want Sonko. So again, who are we, or who are the systems to hold back the process of democracy? Let the people decide. And they want this leader, and they want to believe in.
And then you look here and demand integrity of other leaders.
That is
because, like Senator Mwaura says here, 75(3), a person who has been dismissed or otherwise removed from office for a contravention of the provision specified in Clause 2 is disqualified from holding any other state office. Even as you talk about the question of appeal mechanism, that is specific on a member of parliament, not governorship.
If you extend from sub-article 3 to sub-article 4, then you can argue in that way. But Sabbatical 3 gives a bit of a lifeline. And that's why I'm saying there's still need for further jurisprudence. And there's still need, probably, in the next parliament, there's still need for further, probably laws that can then clearly define some of these issues. There are still areas that are still grey. Okay. And there are still areas where there's room for debate.
So what if, of course, the ruling is yet to be given, but as matters stand is that Mike Sonko, just like Karungo Thang'wa, is not on the ballot. So it becomes more difficult to put your name on the ballot. What if he's not cleared to be on the ballot?
Well,
what will Wiper do?
The slot is still open for Wiper to put in a governor candidate. In fact, that's a debate we were having with our elections board as to whether IEBC has pronounced itself clearly in the event that, somebody is locked out at the tribunal level. Does that mean that the entire party then is locked out from fielding a candidate? But I think there's some precedence from IEBC where then the IEBC allows you to bring another candidate in that place. So it is not lost for Wiper Democratic Movement, but in the end, we have to really look. What do the people want? Okay. And it is clear that the people of Mombasa want Mike Mbuvi Sonko. So that is our hope that it shall be seen that way from the polls. This year around, Sam, everyone has been depending on science. We've been all polling to decide on popularity.
How has he polled in your latest findings?
Well, let's just say I don't have clear statistics right now with me, but from the last polls that were done, he was really giving the ODM candidate who's been strong. It's been an ODM stronghold. He's been giving them some sleepless nights. So we know there are good things to come, and we know the impact he has had the minute he went down to Mombasa and set foot there. So,
Senator Mwaura, so what options does UDA have in Kiambu?
I think that is for the party to decide on what to do in terms of ensuring that the best interest of the people is preserved, really. Yeah.
But you lead the campaign in Kiambu. I thought you'd know. You haven't had this, even informal conversations. It
only happened yesterday, so I'm sure the party will have to make a decision. You can't just say things should happen that quickly. So the party will make its determination in due course. Okay. Whether to wait for Karungo Thang'wa to go to the High Court and still find his way, or whether they will want to replace with another candidate. Okay. That, I think, is a preserve of the party, and I am not able to comment authoritatively because I do not hold any right to do so. That is really the work of the Secretary General, the National Elections Board, and most importantly, the party leader.
Yeah. Interesting. So talk to me about, because something else that happened yesterday, and you'll be listening to the clips of that decision from the Dispute Resolution Committee. Johnson Sakaja is now, well, he remains on the ballot. The committee said that they do not have any mandate or powers to determine the authenticity of a degree certificate. But we've also seen the confusion that has been. Commission for University Education coming out and saying that we revoke the recognition certificate we had issued to Sakaja. In fact, now the DCA has been activated to investigate the authenticity of that certificate and many others. What does this say, and what do you think will happen to the race in Nairobi?
I think a precedent has already been set in this whole issue of degree. There was a question of Samboja. There was a question of Joho. There is it Mandela or Wajir governor? I think it's Wajir governor. Or, one of them. I've confused it. I forget who amongst the two. There was a question of Linturi. So really, there is a lot of precedence around the degree certificate, and you hear a lot of things from one person to another. So if then IEBC has already cleared Johnson Sakaja, then the work of the Commission for University Education is to prove whether really Sakaja had a degree or not, because that is within their purview. What I find strange is that they revoked whatever they had already approved. And now Sakaja is actually able to vie, you see. So I think that's a matter that is now settled, because if IEBC has already cleared him, I don't know whether it can be revoked if it was to be ascertained that he doesn't have a degree. But sometimes I also read a lot of politics, honestly. I read a lot of politics because when there is this back and forth, or you have a degree, or it's not genuine, and what have you. And that is a very serious indictment of the Commission for University Education, because they should be able to have a robust system to confirm whether somebody went to school or not. And also, let us also not use the degree issue to bar people if you feel they are more popular. You get the point? But I think Sam Gituku, honestly, this whole charade has also built the profile of Johnson Sakaja. That is interesting about politics. He's now been very profile. He's been the front, in fact, even in front pages. He's our colleague in the Senate. We were nominated together in 2013, and I have had the privilege of serving with him both in the National Assembly and the Senate. So really, I can only wish him well, because in politics, any publicity is good publicity. Clearly, we are not talking about his competitor, Polycarp Igathe. We are talking about him. So, I mean, if that then has been settled, the rally yesterday in Jacaranda was ostensibly going to really show up his support base, but there could never have been a better campaign than the detractors who never wanted him to run. So I think that is a matter that is largely settled, but it would be good. But
what lessons do we learn moving forward? Because if you look at the recognition process of Sakaja's degree certificate or program, it took a record period, because all the letters from Sakaja to CUE to the National Council for Higher Education in Uganda, from that council to the Team University, from Team University back to the council, from the council back to CUE, and CUE back to Sakaja, it all happened on one day, 6th of June.
I think that I cannot comment authoritatively. Maybe that is what needs to be investigated by the Commission for University Education. But what matters, Sam, is that he has been cleared to run. Because also for Wavinya Ndeti, the conversation was that the degree that she got was actually questionable. So you see now, if already they have been cleared, who are we? Kasanga and I cannot...
No, I hear you. I hear you, Senator. Let me hear from Senator Kasanga here, because I think you were here last week and we mentioned a little bit about that.
Yes.
But what does it tell us about, because at the end of the day, yes, a university degree is a requirement in law for you to run for governorship.
Yes.
But it should actually be possible to prove that indeed you have that degree if you're to stick to integrity and values for a leader.
You know, a degree, like somebody said, and I'll quote whoever it is, I don't know who said, but a degree is like pregnancy. It's a sort of thing you can't hide. If you did indeed go to university, you cannot hide that fact. There's enough evidence from the students who you went to class with, your lecturers, and then all the paperwork that goes with having a degree, the actual ceremony itself, and all the paperwork that follows the ceremony. To prove that you went to school, to university, to do a degree should not be a thing that requires debate. And what I know from what we've seen in this year's politics is that in the next 5-year cycle, this question will not even be there. I am 100% sure anyone running for governor in the next election will for surely go back to school and make sure they have all the evidence in place. In terms of photographic evidence, you saw Polycarp Igathe also posting a picture of himself. I think just to tout his counterpart here. But all this is good for us. All this is good for our nation. All this is good for our country. It means in the next 5 years, we will not have this question of degrees for gubernatorials. That is the one thing I can say.
Right.
The one for Wavinya Ndeti, people need to remember that a lot of universities do allow credit transfers, especially like if you've done a higher diploma, say a higher diploma in construction, and then you apply for a degree in construction management. You will be given credit transfers probably up to the 3rd year, which means you'll be only in university maybe for 10 months. In which case, then you have finished your degree paper. So maybe for Wavinya, that is what was happening. Right. Because I saw a lot of issues in the newspaper. I mean, the Mtandao, asking how can you go to school for a degree for 10 months? But you see, you need the whole history, including credit transfers, which are acceptable in most of the universities that are affiliated with our education system. So this whole process is good for Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually good for us.
And I am looking at the letter that CUE issued on Friday, Senator Maura, and they're saying that the investigations are ongoing and the Commission has written to Honorable Sakaja to provide the following information, including his application for the course, letter of admission from the university, evidence of registration including student ID, credit accumulation and transfer system, course description for the Bachelor of Science in Management, external, course units taken, transcripts, examination schedules, graduation booklet that has his name on it, receipts for application fee, tuition fees, graduation and convocation, name of lecturers that taught him some of the courses, any communication with the university staff, academic and administrative, regarding his course in the university, graduation photo while wearing the gown, and his evidence of the requisite credit hours covered. Is this a fair demand of the senator in authenticating his program?
I think
his degree.
I think it's too much, because do you have your university ID for the university you went to?
Yes.
I would have to find it. But I think
I
it's
have
somewhere.
mine.
Yeah, no, but to be honest,
But
it's
not me.
Yeah. To be honest, Sam, it's difficult to go to all those. For example, can you remember? Can you actually go and pull? Not unless you keep your documents very well, that you have your admission letter. I mean, when I joined Kenyatta University in 2002, that's 20 years ago. Surely, most likely, in fact, I don't have it myself. Or, like, for example, you are being told to give you the course list. I did 54 units in KU. I wouldn't remember even some of them now anymore. Transcripts can tell, for example. But then, anyway, I think it's too much of a demand. Maybe they should have a better way of getting to know whether somebody went to school. But I want to concur with my colleague senator here that you went to school with people we know. Like, for example, for me, we were student leaders with Gladys Wanga. There is evidence about that. The universities that I've gone to, Kenyatta University, Nelson Mandela University in South Africa, University of Leeds in England, I have people that I went to school with, and my lecturers, I can remember them and what have you. So, to some extent, some of those things you can easily prove, but to some, I think it's an overkill. When I looked at the whole demand, I thought, could there be a better way of proving that somebody has actually gone to school?
So I mean, you say yours was in 2002. Senator Sakaja's graduation certificate, or rather degree certificate, reads that he graduated on 21st of October 2016. I don't know if that makes it easier for him based on technology advancement. But what should he now do with this letter?
I think he has the burden of proof. He's the one to go and prove. I mean, take all those documents. I'm sure, of course, they can raise some preliminary objections on what the demands, and that it is within his right. But certainly, if Team University confirms that he was their student, who are we to argue? Yeah, who are we to argue to say that we don't know whether he went to school or not? So I think let that be proven beyond reasonable doubt that then actually, and he's able to do so. But as it stands, what we're asking ourselves, Sam, is this an academic exercise as well? Because already he's been cleared. So even if they went and sat with my good friend, Professor Chacha Nyagoti Chacha, who was actually in the interview panel that gave me a scholarship to go and study in Leeds, actually, is it going to help? Is it really going to help? So I think that's the point. And also, I honestly don't believe that a degree makes a better leader, personally. But it facilitates one to navigate the formal structures of government and the way we interlocute issues of people as to occasion results that, of course, provide solutions to their endemic problems.
That we should forget about that as a minimum.
No. It's a legal requirement. It's a legal requirement, but it does not necessarily make one a good leader. Of course. For those of us who are on this table, it would profit us that we have degrees, and so therefore it would give us undue advantage. So we would actually promote it, that even all members of parliament should be degree holders. But then that is a very exclusive group of people. Look at the Form 4 results of this year, Sam. Out of the so many students, only 17% got a C+ and above. That is their university students. And I hold the view that I have actually seen more learned people are able to engage in debate more robustly on the floor of the House, for example. But then, let us look at representation. It's about representation. Are we going to say that we should only ring-fence representation to only these 17%? Who get a university degree certificate? I beg to differ, but because it's a legal requirement right now that for you to run for governor or president, that it should be the case, then so be it. However, because of that requirement, people may actually go around to, buying certificates and looking for those papers. I mean, there is a governor I heard that he has a degree from Costa Rica, and you wonder when he went to school in Costa Rica. So you will be hearing those kind of things with dubious papers, and there are so many online courses that people say they are doing. We are in actual sense, there's nothing that is happening. So the problem with that requirement is that it makes people to cheat it makes people to go out of their way to prove that they actually went to school. Does that make them better leaders just because they present a paper? I don't think so. So our integrity should not just be encapsulated into a piece of paper called a degree. Our threshold of who becomes a leader should be a little bit higher, and the parameters should not just be around academic qualifications. And that speaks a lot directly to a kind of democracy, because I honestly believe that there is a very serious morass, there is a very serious decay in the manner in which we actually get leaders who superintend our public affairs.
All right, and of course I'm looking at some numbers here, census of 2019, and I also see that the Nation has reflected on them on page 4, that as of 2019, there were 1.25 million Kenyans who had university degrees, 2.6 million had the highest qualification was mid-level college or TVET qualification, 8.8 million had secondary qualification as the highest education level, and 18 million primary school. Adult basic education was 16.8, and people with no education at all were 3.3 million. And so, Senator Kasanga, again, the letter to Senator Sakaja on the material that he has to supply, is it a fair demand? Is he being unfairly targeted? He said that this is a political issue and he's going to deal with it politically. Is this political? It's a question of integrity and qualification.
I think for my good friend Sakaja, it could be because of the way it has played out in the public. Now the commission must also, show its teeth. Whereas maybe if it had been handled a little differently, then maybe it wouldn't have been played out the way it has played out currently. I think the institution, which is the Commission of University Education, is entitled to do what they have to do. Is the list too long or is the ask too much? Maybe it could be. But the fact that, they have been out there, in public and they have been questioned about their intention, then they have to come out in their full force, and show themselves as to what is their duty and their mandate. So I think that is what the commission is doing. It is in their place to ask the question.
Right.
And it is for our good senator of Nairobi then to, rise to the occasion and prove. Like I said, to prove that you went to school for a degree should not be, a question that requires a back and forth. It should just be right out there, and you should have enough evidence if indeed you did go to school. So I am not worried about that. And, for the conversation about degrees, as to whether, what Senator Mwaura is saying, whether the requirement for degree, and this debate has been there. In fact, many people say that it's discriminatory. I think it has been challenged severally in court. But we have to be careful. Whereas we can say there's still a small population of Kenyans who have degrees, we can increasingly say that that population has grown significantly.
Right.
We have a pool of Kenyans with degrees, and in fact, many of them who are jobless, so to speak, and who are able to do a lot of things. Okay. And that they should be given a chance. Why not? The office of the governor and the office of the president are such that these people require this kind of qualification. These are CEOs. These are people who will be dealing with a lot of paperwork, with a lot of communication, with a lot of expression and reporting and all that stuff. They require to have this kind of qualification.
All right.
You can argue, differently maybe for the people's representatives in the parliament. Maybe there you can argue a little bit because their duty there is to do representation. But even from my experience in parliament, a lot of our work, and Mwaura will tell you this, at committee level, is about paperwork, reading, doing bills, and things like that.
How do senators who are not necessarily holders of degrees, how do they fare?
No, they get the support. The good thing with parliament is that there is the support that gives you, that if you have a question from your people, if your people who you represent have a question and you bring it to parliament, then the parliament will help you to process those questions to the extent that you can get an answer from the executive in a manner to answer your people. So that kind of support is there, and that's why I'm saying in parliament you may argue that you don't want to discriminate people's representatives to that extent at parliament. But where there is a CEO function, which is governor, where, direct money is involved and things like that, and at presidential level, then this is a question that should not be there for debate.
Okay.
They must have those qualifications.
All right. I need us to take a short break. But Senator Mora, you look at the County Government Act, and it talks about county executive committee members. They have to be holders of university degrees. Then, of course, the courts have pronounced themselves that there was no public participation to require members of parliament and MCAs to have university degrees before running. Because you've been in both houses, how do those persons that may not have gone to that level of higher education, how do they fare on the floor of the House, but also in the committee engagements that go on in Parliament?
There's a lady called Maison Leshomo. I may not agree with her politically, but she's really impressed me. She doesn't have a degree, but I really like the way her leadership skills. There was a time I have taken her to Samburu. I've seen her debate in Kiswahili very eloquently on the floor of the House. And for me, that gives me a kind of thinking that you don't really need a degree to be a good legislator. But I also agree with Senator Sylvia Kasanga. You see, you are dealing with the book-smart people versus street-smart people. In politics, you have to have both. Because if you have either of them alone, it will not help you. Street smart wins you votes. Book smart helps you to govern. That is why you find governors, you know, if you are a very street smart politician, streetwise, you have to have a deputy who is more academic. You can see that much. But the quintessential politician who would make it would have both. He's gone to school, but also can know how to, you know, go with the rubble of the street. And that is also the problem of the state of our country, Sam. We are neither modern, neither are we traditional. We are in between there. You see, that in-betweenness would require you therefore to match the two. Because the people you deal with on the ground, well, what ground? They don't look like the ones that are seated on this table. And they are the ones that you need to represent, and you are their interlocutor. Right. So you get the point there. So I don't want really to say, because I cannot say all of the people who have degrees are the ones who perform well. There's a correlation, actually, though, that the more learned and educated, the more you are likely to debate well on the floor of the House. But we have professors, even in the Senate, without mentioning names, Sylvia, who may not have been the best of debaters. You get the point, eh? And we have people who have a simple degree who are doing well. So there is a way in which then you say this helps, but it's sheer charisma and, you know, that kind of personal push. That just merely because you went to school. All right. Because even in that Senate or National Assembly, even when people have degrees, there is a variance of those who actually shine and come out very well. So it's a matter of personalities and whatever. But yes, does a degree help somebody to do work in Parliament? Yes, it does. Okay. Does it necessarily make you a better leader? I don't agree.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Of course, it's an ongoing conversation. Remember, I told you that today IEBC will be giving a status update about the voters register rather. There's been several concerns about the integrity of the system. The KPMG has been working at it and said that at least 1 million records of voters are questionable. Some of them are dead. Some of them have multiple records. Others used invalid documentation. Others used documentation that do not belong to them. Take a short break. When we come back, we speak about that, but also the campaign trail and the instances that we witnessed yesterday at the Jacaranda grounds.